I'm architect Pramod Balakrishnan, passed out from CEPT way back in 1981. I have a firm here by the name of Edifice, which we do architecture and interior. We're almost 30 years old. All clients do come up with their brief, which are, to me, mathematical, right? We want this, we want that, we want this. It doesn't have the immeasurables. It has only the measurables. So we step out and say, what is it that we want to do? So this particular project that I'm going to talk about is a housing project that has, for us, been a great journey. We have approximately a 7-acre site with a high tension line crossing it. Our only entrance to the site is through a development which is already there, which is called Bolini Hills. And then all over here, we have this slum clearance housing boards, which are already being dilapidated. And here we have villas with their back to our site. And this is the only entrance that we have. This is east, this is west, this is north, this is south. The land is almost flat, there isn't much to it. There are certain rules that the local laws say, because of the lack of any planning, that on any large property, you can't lock the other guy and you have to allow for a road to come in through. So the advantage was we just ran this road right up, straight. And this amount of land that we had here, we converted this into a green belt. So this acted like a buffer between the development and the Tamil Nadu Housing Slum Clearance Board. And we have a rule here which is called the open space reservation, which is 10% of the land. Fortunately, that was 10% and that became green, and this road went in through and that became our property. We were also worried about what is it that people would look out into. So we talked about this whole idea of why would they come and live here, and we came back with this concept that this journey that we have in this life is a continuous journey. And at some point of time, we come home to re-energize ourselves, to move forward again in life. But most of the housing that we see around us are apartment buildings. They just lock each person in within the unit, and nobody's really worried about how people meet. Do they know their neighbors? Do they know the things? Nothing happens there. So everybody has a single way of entering their unit. They open the door, they bang the door, and it's shut. And sometimes within the apartment, kids are banging the door and shutting themselves off. So there's this whole anonymity coming in, isolation coming in, which we thought was not what was required. So how could architecture make this change? And so said architecture can only make this change if we have many routes, many paths, many pauses, and many chances of interaction. So we have to create opportunities. So that's how we began to do it. And there were certain restrictions that we had. This was a very narrow road, so therefore the rule said that your building had to be one block. And one block means you couldn't separate the blocks, you couldn't do that, ambiguous rule. But that helped us because it helped us connect the whole thing. So basically what we did is that became the block in its common sense. We had a central space, we had squares that joined, we had intervening streets, and then we had all our cores on the outside. So nobody had to go through car parks and things like that and come to the cores. So we had our cores on the outside, and the cores were visible by the language of the built. And if you went into the core, you could actually do this. So we're creating a network. And that network fitted in within the overall. So we got a kind of frame around which we needed to build. And then this became the story. So this became the oasis. These became the squares. These became the larger former streets. These became the secondary streets. And all the buildings then happened to move around this particular area. That was the intent that we explained to the client. They're saying that this is what we want to do. And they had no idea as to how this will get built up. The other attempt that we wanted to do was we didn't want anybody to see outside. No seeing outside. So therefore we created pockets that units looked inside. So your outer skin was almost dead and the inner skin was allowing this. And then once you came into this environment, you were completely disconnected from the world around you. Now what has happened is a road has come here. Because they said under the high tension line, we'll give you a road, the panchayat, and so we have one access here and one access here. So that's the basic idea around that. So what I would then say is that this would be blue, this would be green, this would be green, this would be green, green, green. So it's a traditional plan, you have the square, and each square became a marker. So each square had activities that were not similar to the other one. So we've lost markers in our city, we have lost markers in our apartment complexes. So we created markers. So one square would have a chess square, one square would have where girls would play hop, step and jump or hop, skip and jump. One would be a theater, one would be a little children's play area. And so what would happen is when kids are playing chess, grandfather from the top is shouting and saying, horse doesn't move that way, horse moves this way or something like that. So this communication became very important. We also learned from the mohallas of how people relate to each other through balconies. So we tried to break this whole idea of privacy. What is privacy? Right, so we broke the idea of privacy. So we have people talking to each other. We have children running around the streets and saying, auntie, you made fish fry. I'm coming to eat the fish fry, which you don't see anywhere. So you begin to hear voices, you begin to see life, and you begin to see a simplicity that is not because of the fact that they want to portray something, but who they are. And that, I think, we succeeded in the kind of built environment that we did.